It's preparing. So, welcome to our podcast that we finally named
EMPHORY Talks, Freedom Speaks.
No, go out. Okay. Wait. Okay, got it. Okay, sorry. I'm on my phone, so I'm like, I got to push different buttons that I normally push. So, all right. Yes, Gina named our podcast EMPHORY Talks, Freedom Speaks. I love it. So, today we are not in the same place. As you can see, I'm doing a little event here in a little bit. So one of the coolest things I love about just this model and what we desire for people who like want to come and play with us is really like, this is just life, right? We're striving to get somewhere to be happy. And happiness is when we realize we're already where we're trying to get. We're already there. It is the state in which we decide to be in. And so I love that I'm like, hey, I have this event. I thought it was all day. It's actually at 4:00. Can we do this? And Gina's like, yeah, because Zoom is everywhere, but this is just life. And so we just navigate life and staying in a place where we're powerful, where we know that we can navigate, where we are at choice for how we respond to everything. And then there's no problem. So I love that. That's just a little side note about what I love about like what this model has taken me to, right? Because I used to be one of those people that if everything didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, I was freaking pissed. It ruined my whole day. It ruined the day of everyone around me because I was all cranky and bitter and like pissed. And now I'm like, okay, this is life. Like schedules got changed. Okay, cool. What do we do? How do we like ride with it? So I love, again, the freedom. That's why it's EMPHORY Talks and Freedom Speaks, because it really is a lifestyle of freedom. So
I love that. Well, we've been pulling a number out of a hat to tell us what we're going to talk about today, but we didn't have that. So we did a session where we did some intuitive calls on it. So we landed on our practice today. You don't know what you don't know. And so just a reminder about our model, we've got 36 principles and 12 practices. Principles are really about that it works, how the laws work in our human and our spirit, where the practices are always something we'll be not working on, but they'll be something we'll be practicing because we'll never fully embody them. Right?
Because that's, and we don't want to, right? Because
right.
that is the discovery of more. That is the discovery of more of me, more of God, more of the freedom, more of whatever it is that we came to the planet to have more of. So yeah, we don't want to get anywhere with the practices. We want to continue to allow them to unfold.
Yeah, thanks for unpacking that a little more. I was like, that's not quite the message that I'm wanting to portray. All right, but in our practices, we have some practices that really help us tap into that spirit side, some that help us tap into our human side. And so when we look at this number 7 practice, you don't know what you don't know. Where are we tapping into, Lori?
We're tapping into our human side.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about you don't know what you don't know is how often I used to say, and I still hear people say, I know. And the feeling that I now notice behind the I know energy. But the cool thing is about our human, when we actually break it down, our human doesn't know what it doesn't know. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to not know, where there's the other side of us, our spirit, the place within us, depending on how you look at this, that knows. It's our knower, but it's not our brain that's the knower. But oftentimes we're trained that it is. Yeah. So, Lori, what's been your journey with this one? You don't know what you don't know. Where did you start?
Yeah, so I very much started that my intellect to know was what gave me value. And so it was like I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know that I knew. I wanted people to think that I knew the answer, that I knew like how to solve a problem. Like I wanted people to believe that I knew stuff because that was my value. And so for me to go, I don't know what I don't know, was really so much grace on my life to not have to be perfect and knowing everything, you know? And so it was like this huge, like, wait a minute, on purpose, like that is my design that I don't know in my human. And that was just like a huge relief.
Yeah, to me, this one really, really links up with the principle of the becoming, and I'm trying to remember what's on the other side of that one off the top of my head. Being. Yeah, our humans always becoming. So there's always more to know. We know what we know up until this point, but we don't know what we don't know. So therefore we don't know. And it becomes this kind of crazy game in my head. But I find that when I love how you've described this in the past of when we think we know something, it really jams things up between our true knower, our body, and our mind. And I often feel that now, like physically, like when I'm in I know energy and my human and my cognitive, I feel that closed offness all like through my throat almost. Ooh, I'm thinking I know something and I'm really attached to knowing that thing. And I'm attached to other people's knowing that I know that thing. And for me, I think it really was this place of trying to control to feel safe, trying to control to know what to expect in my environment. And the same as you as well, like to show my value. And so letting go of this and letting go of my cognitive knower as the value and as the safety maker has been incredibly empowering, though I thought it would be kind of the opposite. It's this complete freedom because all of a sudden that energy of I know, which I feel as the grip, steps into curiosity, and there's all this openness for things to flow and new things to come in that I had no conception of before. The limitation of the knowing, which is part of the human, but like the limitation it even places on my belief in possibility, my belief in really anything. It was just so closed versus this open. That's the biggest difference for me, is like closed versus open here.
Well, and I love that you brought in that idea of belief, because I think that's the biggest thing. Like when we start to really awaken to this model, one of the biggest things to, I guess, combat or like allow for or whatever, depending on what side of the pendulum you're coming from, but is this like idea that you don't believe what you think you believe, because if you actually believed it, you would actually be doing something different in your life. And so if you're complaining about something and somebody gives you a suggestion, you go, yeah, I know. Or, well, you know, here is this law, the law of attraction or the law of manifestation, or here are these things. And somebody's like, oh yeah, I already know that. Okay, but if you're not applying it to your life, if it's not manifesting in your life, there is something you don't know, that you don't believe in your subconscious mind. And like you were saying earlier, if I say that I know it, basically what my subconscious mind does is go, okay, no more information. And my body goes, okay, we're not going to receive that. And then it never becomes the embodiment in order to actually manifest it. So, so that's one of the biggest things about that. Like you mentioned, curiosity. And when we realize that the gift of not knowing is now curiosity is all that's available. And that is that energy of allowance and manifestation and discovery and excitement and surprise and almost like mystery or magic, or right, because it's like all of a sudden here's this thing and it's like, oh my gosh, yes, because curiosity allowed us to receive what we thought we knew that we didn't know.
Yeah, it's the opening. It's the
Yeah.
portal.
Yeah.
The thing that keeps coming up is like there's this thing about I think I know, and so therefore I'm a little closed. But there's also these times where I hear people during coaching or even myself saying, well, I don't know. Well, I don't know. And so the flip side of this, if this the great use of this practice is when we're in our human and we're feeling like we know. We're feeling like we know all the things. We're not feeling open to not knowing. We're finding maybe even wrongness with not knowing. And so this practice allows us to swing over and be like, okay, this is my design. It's okay not to know. It allows me to start practicing this. What if I don't know what I don't know? But what about when we're stuck in the place of saying, I don't know, when maybe we do know? What's the flip side of this?
Yeah, and I love that this is like the beauty of the EMPHORY model is why so often we're just doing life and we don't know when we say, I don't know, when we're actually saying that our being doesn't know, our intuition doesn't know, our knower doesn't know, right? And so being able to go, okay, well, how does that feel? Well, when I go, I know, and I feel like I have to assert that I know, really good indicator that I'm on my human side that doesn't know. Okay. But when I'm sitting there and I'm like, I don't know, and I feel weak, well, that's a good indicator that I'm actually on my spirit side, acting as if, or perceiving that I actually don't know what my body, what my intuition is willing to reveal to me if I, like you said earlier, step back into curiosity and go, well, what if I did know, right? What if my intuition did know? Because that, like you said earlier, that is our knower, right? Our spirit, which is in our body, is our knower. So, yeah.
And as you're talking about that, so our spirit's in our body and it's our knower. Our cognitive mind is in our head. And when we open up that channel of, okay, I don't know what I don't know, now our knower starts to be able to move through. And then we can have the cognitive awareness, but from a whole new place. I'm just noticing this thing of when I know up here, how I'm trying to push it, or there's something going on. But when I don't know, and even if I don't think I know, how there's now space up here to ask that question of what if I did, or what do I know that I didn't know I knew? And that allows this upward movement, because now we're not blocked between the head and the body for the knowing that we're meant to know now to come up, which isn't the end. It's just a piece of the knowing. I still don't know what I don't know.
Right. Because our human will never know. And again, that's the beauty of the human, is the ever unfolding, right? But if there's nowhere in me that knows, then there's no safety. There's nothing for me to actually hang on to as security, which is why there has to be a knower. But I love that imagery that you just described. And so I'm just going to say it again, just because I loved it so much that I want it to be like crystal clear. when I think I know, the thing that I think I know is taking up space in my head. But my head can't know. It's only a thinker. And then when I open up the space to not know, it opens up the space for my knower to actually, the knower that I don't know, because it's my subconscious or my underneath my awareness conscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
It allows that space for something to come up into it, right? And so now my human can be aware of something that I didn't know before that was only in my body. That's so cool.
It is really cool. It's fun to think about.
Yeah. And when I think I know, it is that pushing down, right? So it's not just when I think I know I can't know more, but when I think I know, it like works both directions as far as like not having the conduit between the two.
Yeah.
Communication between the
Yeah.
two.
I don't know why sometimes I just feel such a strong energy behind things, right? Like overwhelmed to me, I just feel this grippy energy. And when I think about knowing, I just feel this push energy that we're talking about. Like it's pushing other people away a lot of times because I'm unwilling to be open to like not knowing. And it doesn't even mean I have to take on their knowing of something. I'm just unwilling. It actually shows me how in so many ways, like I thought I was so strong in my, I guess, heads. I was considered headstrong, right? Like I was so headstrong and very stubborn. And even having sometimes conversations with other people that went against what I knew was a waste of time or pointless. Like there was just no ability to bring any value to that. Where the shift for me has really been like, oh, I actually am strong enough now in my knowing down here, my unknowing up here, that I have way more space and bandwidth to connect with things and people that I once thought that I knew, and I kind of kept them at an arm's length because it was, as I'm saying this, it was like kind of threatening. I would have had to defend my knowing. And now I don't have to defend the knowing.
And as you're saying all this, what's so cool, and like you alluded to it, but you didn't say the word, but it totally popped for me. I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's judgment, right? Because if I think I know something that I don't know, because if I knew it, I wouldn't have to defend it. There'd be no argument. There'd be no conversation. There'd be nothing. It'd be like, okay, whatever. If you think I don't know, whatever, right? But if I think I know it and my thinking I know it has to make it right, then somebody else has to be wrong in order for me to be right. And so now I have to judge you as wrong so that I can be right, because my value, my importance, my self-worth is like attached to that knowing, right? And so the only alternative is to make someone else wrong, which is that pushing away, which is that, you know, people not wanting to be in here because it feels yucky to have somebody constantly pushing somebody else away.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. I don't think I ever put that together quite so clear than when you were saying just that again, the imagery of like pushing people away. Well, what pushes people away? The judgment of making them wrong. And then it doesn't feel good to people.
Yeah. And the prove and defend energy too is really strong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which plays into that, ultimately still that judgment of right and wrong.
Which really at the core of all of this is what we end up getting to, right? Like that's the nugget, is recognizing where we're finding wrongness with something, because that's where we're not free. And so as we look at this practice, like, it's such a good indicator of how, if it's a really challenging practice for us, it's a pretty good indicator of how wrong it is for us to not know in our human, how wrong we're perceiving it to be. And that can, I think, take on a lot of permutations, right? Like, it can be not smart, or like to be stupid is wrong, to be, vulnerable is wrong. It can be so many different variations at its core, but it's like, at its core, if I don't know, there's something wrong, as opposed to what we eventually start to shift into if I want to say if we do the practice, but you know what? Some of us won't, some of us will, whatever. But as we go through and you apply some of this model, what I have found is really that, well, you've actually helped me see this so much. When we find that wrongness, that nugget of wrongness, it's this huge invitation into knowing more of our rightness.
Mm.
And so when we allow ourselves to feel the discomfort of not knowing, and we then allow us to start, I get to start looking for, okay, well, what's right about me in this? Oh my gosh, this is how my human is designed. It creates so much freedom. That's what all of this is about.
And I love, like, I don't know why this is coming up, but there's even this element that frustration is even part of that feeling like we should know something that we obviously don't know, or there wouldn't be the frustration, there'd be curiosity. And I just go back to that time where, like, something happened with Zoom, and I'm like, no, I did it exactly the same. And you're like, okay, but Lori, like, it either works or it doesn't work. It's technology. And I'm like, I swear I did it exactly the same. Right. And I got frustrated, and you were like, could it possibly be that you think you know something that you don't know? And it was like, oh my gosh, that's the frustration, right? So it's even in that place of not even realizing I'm asserting my rightness, because I wasn't finding wrongness with you, but I was definitely finding wrongness with the technology, right? And so if the technology is doing the wrong thing because I have to be right, because I don't want to look stupid, because I can't figure.
Oh no. I don't know if you're frozen or I'm frozen, but one of us is. Hopefully we'll be back soon. Yes. Well, as she's potentially coming back, one of the things about finding the wrongness in us is if we're unwilling to even notice, or even when we're separating, we're finding wrongness outside of us, it's a really, really good indicator. It's a really good invitation of where we're trying to be right versus knowing our rightness. And this is just a powerful practice. So as you go about maybe playing with this practice, just notice how it makes you feel. Notice what starts to come up. Because when you don't, she's back.
I made the mistake of setting my phone up on my dashboard.
Got hot.
So it got hot. Yeah. Anyway, the whole point was the frustration was also the indicator that I wasn't in curiosity. And the minute that Gina said that and I got in curiosity, it was like something that I actually hadn't done the same way I thought I had done it before. And then instantly it was like the whole situation was resolved. But my like the frustration could have been the indicator that I wasn't in curiosity, and it could have like been completely different. Now it's different, right? But I didn't know what I didn't know back then, right? I didn't know that I didn't know that the frustration was the indicator, right? So anyway.
I love that too. And while you were kind of gone, I was diving into a little bit about that. Like the great feedback in that as well is, yes, the frustration is a good indicator. Ooh, I'm not in curiosity. Like that's what's happening. And the finding wrongness with things outside of us is also a pretty good indicator of where we're trying to be right, as opposed to knowing our rightness. And so it's, again, just tapping back into the invitation for curiosity, the invitation to know our rightness deeper, our invitation to not know and see how it feels, to see what comes up, because that's what it's really all about. That's why it's called a practice.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Well, and I was also, as you were coming back on, I was about to lead into, if people want to start playing with this practice, just seeing how it plays out in their life. You know, one of the tips we like to teach is sometimes we don't believe it. Sometimes we don't want to believe it yet. But some of the ways to start bringing this practice in is putting a little what if in front of it. What if I don't know what I don't know? And just notice the difference in how that feels for you. If you're trying to force yourself into doing this practice, probably a good indicator you're trying to stuff into your subconscious, and that's not going to play very well. It's an invitation for your subconscious to start like coming out of its shell, revealing to you what you want to now be aware of. And what if I don't know what if I don't know what I don't know is another starting point. If I don't know what I don't know, it doesn't feel good right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think like Gina was saying, just playing in that when your body feels tense, anytime your body feels tense, just be like, what if I just didn't know something? What if this is just an invitation to realize I didn't know something? And what happens is it does that thing that Gina was talking about. It actually opens up the space for clarity to come up through your intuition.
Yes. And on top of that, like the thing I love to play with too is, what if it's all allowed? So what if not knowing is allowed? How does that land for you when you feel all grippy or feel that tension in your body? Yeah, those are so fun. I love playing with the what ifs. They're one of my favorites.
Yeah, for sure. And I love what Gina said. Guys, this is such a personal practice, like not this specific number 7 practice, but EMPHORY as a whole, this model, like that's what is so sexy about the EMPHORY model, is because it's all about how it works by law and how to apply it uniquely to you. And so I love how Gina said, just feel what that feels like in your body. Starting there, what does that feel like in your body? Because guys, that really is like the end all be all of the final authority for your life, is how are you interacting with anything? How does it feel in your body? And the cool thing about EMPHORY is it allows you to start to feel the freedom, right? There's a verse that says you'll know the truth and the truth will set you free, right? Because if we're living in a not truth, our body is bound up. And if we're living in a truth, our body feels the freedom. And that's what this model so like gently provides, is a way to play with beliefs, play with practices, play with the principles, play with our spirit side, play with our human side, and to just let our body reveal to us what is true for us. So, yeah.
Well, is there anything else you wanted to chat about on this one?
I don't think so.
Me either. It's a fun one though.
For sure. For sure.
And
All
I feel
right.
like it's one of the ones that I cognitively get the most out of all of them. Like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Is it always easy to practice? No, but I actually really get it. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So wrap us
All
up.
right. All right. Did you say wrap us up?
Wrap us up, Lori.
Well, if you're 20 something and you want to dig into EMPHORY, the brilliant Gina is doing a 20 something class, EMPHORY 101. She's also starting another class for just anyone in September. So if this would be fun for you guys to dig in, hit Gina up.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.